Meanwhile, the immigration controversy is turning ugly, with liberal comedian Kathy Griffin taking a vicious swing at the First Lady. Melania Trump's office releasing a statement saying, quote, Mrs. Trump hates to see children separated from their families and hopes both sides of the aisle can finally come together to achieve successful immigration reform. She believes we need to be a country that follows all laws, but also a country that governs with heart. Griffin then tweeted out this profanity-laced message to the First Lady, which you can choose to read yourself, but it's a bit too ugly for me to read on the air, quite frankly. Let's bring in RNC spokeswoman Kayleigh McEnany. So not only is this debate heating up, but it's turning downright ugly, Kayleigh.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, Kathy Griffin, she's a hateful, irrelevant provocateur. When she lost her job at CNN, she's now made a career out of attacking the Trump women. It is turning ugly. But what Melania said is what we're all saying. None of us want to see these separations at the border. President Trump has called it horrible. He said he does not want to see this either. And there's a very simple way to stop this. Nancy Pelosi, after you get done with your tour down at the border, looking at the facilities, get back to Washington and change the laws, because it's on you, Democrats, to allow this to continue.
You know, it's interesting, though, to then see this scathing opinion piece by Laura Bush on the policy. Many of us have had a chance to read it this morning. I'm sure you have as well, Kayleigh. And in it, she writes, quote, I live in a border state. I appreciate the need to enforce and protect our international boundaries. But this zero-tolerance policy is cruel. It is immoral. And it breaks my heart, she wrote. And important to point out, as our reporting led into this, that it was her husband, the president, George W. Bush, who initiated the zero-tolerance approach for illegal immigration, on which President Trump's policy is modeled.
Sandra, that's exactly right. The laws have not changed. Going back to the Bush era and the Obama era, families were separated in two cases, where the child was in danger or in the case that the adult is being prosecuted. You're right, the zero-tolerance policy hasn't changed. This has always been the law. People are just making it an issue because this is the Trump administration. And a really important point in all of this is we have seen a 315% increase in people posing as families to try to cross the border. Those are traffickers, those are smugglers, endangering immigrant children by using them to gain access to this country. It's a dangerous scenario, not safe for the children, also not safe for U.S. citizens who are being plagued by MS-13, which, by the way, the Washington Post called a ticking time bomb.
So Bill Clinton weighed in. He wrote this yesterday. On this Father's Day, I'm thinking of the thousands of children separated from their parents at the border. These children should not be a negotiating tool, and reuniting them with their families would reaffirm America's belief in and support for all parents who love their children. Now, we've heard from the White House, we've heard from the president, we heard from the First Lady even, and their hearts do break for these children. Do you see the president and his administration doing all that they can do, considering they don't like what they're seeing either?
They're doing all that they can do. And Rich Lowry had a fantastic piece over at National Review on this. He pointed out that this separation between the child and the parent typically only lasts a day if the immigrant chooses to go back to the country that they came from. The prosecutions are quick. They get an expedited removal order. They leave the country if they so choose. It's when the illegal immigrant decides to apply for asylum, and this Flores agreement demands that the child be released in 20 days. Nancy Pelosi, you can go back to Washington. You can change the policy. The Trump administration is enforcing the law, protecting U.S. citizens. I distinctly remember those parents crying during the State of the Union because they lost their kids to MS-13. We cannot allow illegal immigrants to cross the border, many of whom have ravaged the lives of U.S. citizens.
You know, our brain room digging up some of the statistics, just trying to bring up some of the numbers to give us some perspective at where things are today versus previous administrations. And at the time of the Obama administration, Kayleigh, the dramatic increase in the number of unoccupied children arriving at the border had reached a, quote, crisis proportion. This is according to a report from Migration Policy by June 2014, with a 90% surge in arrivals from 2013. This is a problem that previous administrations have faced. A lot is on the table this week. What gets done?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up about the unaccompanied minors, because as you know, we saw that surge in 2014. The Washington Post, pretty liberal newspaper, said that there has been an influx of 200,000 teenagers from Central America, and they are fueling this MS-13 crisis that is ravaging America's children in our schools. A man in Texas just died, and his body was burned by an unaccompanied minor who came here, got legal status, and then went out and became an MS-13 gang member. So we've got to make change, but we've got to get Democrats in the room, Sandra. We've got to get them across the table and say, let's fix this Flores agreement. Let's find a DACA fix. Instead of obstructing and engaging in publicity stunts, let's get this done for the American people and do it in a humanitarian way.
It's going to be a big week for that. We'll see what happens. Kayleigh McEnany, thank you.